Song about a suicide at number 27 on my fantasy playlist. And by the way, how you doing? Mr. DJ back. Gonna resume countdown my fantasy playlist. October 17th, 1992, going back at 27, a very tragic, morbid record by by Pearl Jam. It's called Jeremy. Back in the fall of 1992, heavy rotation Jeremy was on MTV. Boy, I remember watching this song on MTV late nights. Man, they played this thing about 1, 2, 3 times a night. Back in the day, Jeremy by Pearl Jam. It's a real story. It's a true story. It's by a guy named Jeremy. His name was Jeremy Dell. Was it Dole or Dale? It's Dale, or Dele. It's Delle. He was tormented by his classmates, and he got back at them. He shot himself in front of his English class. It was at Richardson High School in Richardson, Texas. Eddie Vedder, the lead singer of Pearl Jam, he read about this in the Dallas Morning News, and he wrote a song about Jeremy Dell. Now, what happened was Jeremy Dell was late for a class, or he was late for his second period English class. His teacher told him to go to the office and get himself a slip so he could get back into class. Jeremy came back, but instead of bringing a slip, he brought a gun. And he said something to his teacher like, "Miss, I got what I really went for." He put the gun in his mouth. Boom. Right there, in front of his English class. And that's not the first suicide at Richardson High School. In 1988, now this particular suicide, it took place on January the 8th, 1991. But several years before that, in 1988, there were 3 kids who committed suicide who were attending Richardson High School. Well, I tell you what, Jeremy was a pretty big hit for Pearl Jam. I remember Pearl Jam's first hit. It was their first video. MTV they showed love for Pearl Jam like you wouldn't believe, and you might remember it. We are talking about the beginning of the grunge era, going back into the summer and fall of 1991. They played Alive. They played the hell out of that video, and then MTV jumped on Even Flow later on in 91, and of course Jeremy was real big, heavy rotation on MTV, as I already mentioned. Hitline, my favorite top 40 station, the satellite radio station I listened to back in the 90s, they showed Pearl Jam a lot of love too. They were playing Better Man, which was another hit by Pearl Jam, but they also played Corduroy, which I thought was one of their best records. At number 27 on my fantasy playlist, it is Jeremy by Pearl Jam.